All right, hi everyone, and welcome back again to my channel. So for today's video, we'll be discussing another approach in English language teaching approaches and methods, which is the task-based language teaching, or what we call TBLT. And I know you have heard already this TBLT, or the task-based language teaching, in our previous topic in the communicative language teaching, or what we call, CLT. So we'll be proceeding. So under this topic, we're going to be dealing with some introduction about the theory of language, the theory of learning, what are the tasks under, task-based instruction or task-based language teaching, and then what are the role of the teachers, the student roles, and what's the process under this approach, and what are the sequence of activities, the framework, and also the advantages and the disadvantages of, task-based instruction. So we'll be proceeding. So when we talk about task-based learning or task-based approach, this is an alternative approach to communicative language teaching because this is basically focusing on task-based activity, real-world activities, and processes of language used in any of the four language skills, particularly the speaking, listening, writing, and reading. Now, what is under task-based instruction? Here, the focus is more of on the task. So it's a communicative approach. At the same time, trying to look into learner-centered approach or learner-centered, focus. So the focus here is that teaching efficiency is improved when the learners and their learning are the focus of attention instead of the teacher. So again, as I have told you, this is a communicative approach, and the aim of this is to integrate all the four skills, all four macro skills, the speaking, reading, listening, and writing within, while they are trying to understand, being fluent in the use of language and being accurate also in terms of language fluency. So if you're going to look at it, you're going to answer the following questions as you move on to the task-based instruction or the task-based approach. The why, the when, the what, the who, the where, and the how. So what is the task all about? When are they going to do it? Where are they going to do it? Why are they doing it? Who are they, working with, and how are they going to do it? So again, under task-based instruction, they are more of activities. So here, the theory of language under TBI or task-based approach is that language is primarily a means of making meaning. Students need to make meaning. So multiple models of language inform TBI, which is the structural, functional, interaction models of language. The difference only is that in the communicative language teaching approach is that actually they have similarities, but the focus in CLT is that they really need to have communicative competence. On the other hand, the task-based instruction or the task-based approach is also leading to communicative competence. However, here the central focus of language and the conversation is the central focus of language. So at the task-based instruction. And then therefore, lexical units are central also in language use and language learning. So tasks provide both the input and the output processing. So what do you mean by input? Input is basically the language, focus, the language takeaways of the students. And then after understanding the language takeaways, they're going to have their output as necessary for them to learn about what is the input all about. So task activity and achievement are motivational. Learning difficulty can be negotiated depending on some needs of our learners and then the pedagogical purposes. So let's define first task. A task, according to Noonan 2004, is that it is a piece of classroom work that involves learning in comprehending, meaning students need to understand first, and then after they're going to manipulate it, trying to explore it, and then try to produce, and then try to interact it with a target language, while attention is focused on meaning rather on form. So what do you mean by that? They need to make meaning out of, the conversation. The task should also have a sense of completeness. They need to be able to stand alone as a communicative act and should also embrace the achievement and success for them from the beginning to the middle and to the end. So it's more of procedural in a way that the learners are immersed within the process. So any approach to language pedagogy will need to concern itself with three essential elements. One, the language data, information, and then after that, they will have the opportunities for practice. So that's what I'm telling you. The input is about the information that sets our learners for them to understand. And then after understanding that, they are expected that they are about to apply what they have learned from the input. So what is task? A task is an activity. It is a piece of work that they are about to communicate through a purpose or a goal. And then especially, and it should be done regularly. So a task is to give someone that the responsibility for doing something. They are about to be engaged in the process of learning the language, and there are so much exercise and activities that would call, utilizing or letting the students utilize the language itself. So why are we using task-based approach or TBLT? The task-based language teaching approach will make or engage our students. Students may not produce a target language, but during the practice and the task, they find themselves existing or trying to utilize the language resources to complete the task. So why task-based learning? The conditions for language learning is that one, they are being exposed to a comprehensible input of real spoken and written language in use. Second, they are about to use the language. Third, they are being motivated to listen and read and interact using the English language. And of course, they are, chances on focusing on the desirable, output based on the instruction. So, of course, what do you mean by that? Exposure, it's exposure exposure of the use of language. Use is basically more of exchanging the meaning. The third one is motivation, meaning they get the essential of being exposed. And then the instruction is that they can they do it properly? Are they doing it synchronously? Are they doing it appropriately based on the given goal of the certain task? Now, what are the roles of the teachers here? So in the CLT, the teacher's roles are basically more of a facilitator. Here at task-based approach, they are still facilitator because here they are just the one who's giving the instructions. For the ones who are creating the task, they are the one to select, adapt, create the task, and then present it to the students for the instructional sequence. And trying to facilitate and monitor the learner needs, interest, and language skill level. So the goal here of the teacher is that they are facilitating only and just managing the class in terms of classroom discipline, in terms of looking at what are their needs, looking at the struggles of the learners. So this also will, the teachers also prepare the learners for the task in terms of introducing the task, clarification about the task, helping the students recall some useful words or phrases, and then some hints on how they're going to do and accomplish the task. So again, teacher's role are basically facilitator. On the other hand, the learner's role are looking into as they are the primary, they have the primary roles within the teaching and learning because they are the one who try to do and manage the task. So it can either be you're a participant, or you're just you're a leader who monitors the group itself. So sometimes the task-based instruction can be done individually, can be done also by paired, or can be done also collaboratively. It really depends on the complexity of the topic or the complexity of the objective. And also it depends on the objective of the goals of the topic and also the teacher. So the primary roles of the learners are more of course, group as a group participant, and then as a leader who monitors that because in PBL, tasks are not employed in their own sake, but as a means of facilitating learning. Class activities have to be designed, assigned, so that students have the opportunity to notice how language is used in communication. They are risk takers and innovators because most of them are very creative and they are about to interpret what is being given for the instruction. And they have the full resources and prior experiences. And then they try to look for clarification, consult it with the teacher, and then that's it. So what's the procedure? Of course, there's a pre-task. Pre-task meaning motivating the learners, getting set or setting the mood or setting the tone of the class. And then after that, they're going to have the task cycle. And then the next one is already the language focus. So what is under pre-task? The pre-task is introducing what should be understood. So the focus is on the topic. There are new structures introduced. Instructions to do the task are given. On the other hand, the task cycle would lead to the task itself, the planning, the reporting, the post-talk listening, meaning sometimes they do the reflection also after the task. And then after that, they try to analyze what happened into the task, and therefore there is an analysis and practice. So students are given an opportunity to reflect, analyze the new language. Here, they still have the reflection or analysis, but that's only for the task. But here, there is already a language focus. There is also a value focus within the language itself. Why are they doing it? What's the purpose? What's the importance of trying to look at the errors like that? So they try to have the opportunity to reflect and analyze the new language which has emerged through the task, and they try to put practice the language acquired within the task. So this is the framework of the TBLT, the pre-task, the task cycle, and then the language focus. Here are the pre-tasks, again, setting the tone, setting the understanding of the students. So sometimes what they do, they try to put some certain notes within the pre-task for them to get ready to the task that they will be have given. So but on the other hand, the language focus of the realization and then the analysis and the reflection will be done at the end. All right. So what's the advantages of TBL, or the task-based learning approach? This is applicable for students of all ages and background. However, it will be possible that if there will be like different levels of learners, better the task-based should be in group. So another advantage is that students will have a much more varied exposure to language with TBL because it's a communicative approach. Students are free to use whatever vocabulary and grammar they know rather than just the task language of the lesson. They are free to identify or utilize and be creative on how are they going to put anything within the task. And of course, they are allowed to have meaningful communication within the group. Students will also be exposed to a whole range of lexical phrases, collocations, and patterns, as well as language forms as they try to analyze and try to do the task. And of course, they are about to encourage students to be more ambitious in the language. However, there are disadvantages too. TBL requires a high level of creativity. If our students are not really a good, good students who produce good tasks, definitely it would be hard for the teachers to have produce learning outputs that are something sound, and at the same time the ownership of success or achievement is a little low because there are students who are not really into a level of high intelligence. So that's why the core here is that in the task-based instruction, we can make a collaborative instruction while doing the task-based instruction. So TBL also requires, task-based instruction requires also resources beyond the textbook and related materials usually found in the language classroom. So here at task-based instruction, the core here is that the teacher should be knowledgeable and be flexible and be creative on creating tasks that are related to the language focus. TBI is not teacher-centered, and it requires individual and group responsibility and commitment on the part of the students. So if there is a problem with the behavior of the students, it's really hard to do the task-based instruction if they are not really goal-driven. So there is a risk for learners to achieve fluency at the expense of accuracy. So since at the language focus, it's very minimal because they just do the analysis and all of how it was done, but they don't have so much grammar focus in the task-based instruction. So that's why there is an expense of accuracy. So I guess that would be all for the task-based instruction. But as we go on with the other approaches and also other learning materials, they are having already the combination of the communicative language teaching at the same time the task-based instruction. I guess that would be all, everyone. I hope you learned something. Always remember when we talk about task-based instruction, there are different tasks. Students are, doing the task for them to learn. So that is the core of the task-based instruction. This is a student-centered approach. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you again for our next topic. Thank you.